Recently, while watching 21 Savage's interview with Atlanta native Big Bang in a promo run for his latest record, What Happened to the Streets, I leaned over and asked my friend sitting beside me, who do you think his audience is? It's a valid question. Rappers like 21 Savage will get in the booth and rap about the street life they live, only to go out for performances and look out into the crowds of young white teens. So that begs the question, who is this music for? After the release of his fourth studio album and the lackluster reception that followed, amongst a wave of criticism was streamer and internet celebrity Kai Cenat, who gave the album a mediocre score of 6.5 out of 10.
Say twin. They did what they did, I did what I did, I guess it is what it is.
What? They did what they did, I did what I did, I guess it's just what it is. Who wrote this on the whiteboard to add to the album? This is probably the worst song I heard so far. What?
They did what they did, I did what I did, I guess it is what it is. Say twin.
In response to this, Baby lashed out at Cenat, saying that the reason that the album didn't resonate was because he was too young to truly get it.
Kai Cenat had reviewed the project. Were you able to see that review, and what did you think of it?
I seen like little clips of it, but people like Kai Cenat, I feel like they like younger. You know, like they ain't gonna really to understand how I'm coming. You kind of gotta be a little older to get it.
However, it's clear that when listening to the album, Baby didn't implore any complex verbiage or demonstrate any extraordinary musical talents. The fact of the matter is, the style that once launched Baby into superstardom has grown stale and formulaic. This isn't an issue that's simply applicable to Lil Baby, but many other rappers of his ilk. In a year that's seen dwindling sales and divisive takes on the latest albums for many of Baby's contemporaries, and what can only be described as a down year for mainstream hip-hop, artists are finding it harder than ever to truly resonate with listeners. Despite releases from some of hip-hop's biggest stars like Travis Scott, 21 Savage, Young Thug, and Gunna, hip-hop has suffered from fast food syndrome, with albums being relevant one week and scrubbed from the charts entirely in the coming few, leaving many to wonder, just how did mainstream rap lose its appeal? In the late 2010s, hip-hop music had risen to become the dominant form of music in the mainstream. Seemingly every day, new acts were springing up and adding their talents to the genre. This was an era that produced acts like the aforementioned 21 Savage and Lil Baby, but also Lil Uzi Vert, Kodak Black, Lil Yachty, Playboy Carti, and many more. Different regions were producing artists with their own unique style and sensibilities, as this was a very transformative time in hip-hop, with the OG gatekeepers reluctant to accept any artist that produced sounds never before heard. While some were open to this new innovative style that hip-hop had come to, others, such as Hot 97's Ebro, were not too accepting of these new artists.
Y'all get to like 27, 28, and y'all niggas get to struggling, and y'all be trying to come back and find that sound.
I ain't gonna struggle, bro.
All right, we're gonna see.
Regardless, many assumed that these rappers would simply be flash in the pan type of musicians. But despite this, many artists maintain their relevance past their initial breakout periods. Unfortunately, some of the artists that blew up in this time period didn't get to truly live to see the impact their music would have. Artists like X, Juice WRLD, Pop Smoke, and many died at the peak of their powers, leaving their fan base and legacy behind as well. Had these artists lived to see the impact they had on the culture, they would have easily led the next generation of mainstream hip-hop into the future. The cannibalistic nature of fame swallowed these rappers whole, but what they did exhibit in their limited time on Earth was the versatility that was distinct in this new hip-hop landscape. X's ability to go from brash, loud, punk rock influenced hip-hop to somber, melancholic songs describing his depression and suicidal urges, to Juice WRLD's innate ability to freestyle for hours on end and creating whole albums in short time frames, as well as Pop Smoke's ability to go from drill to love ballads to dancehall music, taking influence from his Bahamian roots. These artists showed an innate ability to adapt, the same of which cannot be said for the current flock of mainstream rappers prominent in the genre now. Key reason for the lack of mainstream artists seeing success in hip-hop is their inability to adapt. What passed for new and innovative in 2018 and 2019 is seen as bland and passé in 2026. The ability to adapt can be attributed to a few key reasons. Firstly, unlike generations of old where an MC would spend their whole life attempting to cultivate their rap ability in hopes of one day being discovered by a label, nowadays, with the advent of the internet, anyone can pick up a microphone and launch themselves into a rap career, spawning from a viral moment from a social media platform. On one hand, artists being able to be instantly discovered without the years of toiling, hoping to make some impact on the music industry, and simultaneously being able to elevate your life and the lives around you is great. But those years spent toiling are essential for one's skill and development. Not immediately succeeding helps to develop a greater appreciation for the artistry and the effort that needs to be put into one's craft. It has often been said that failure builds character, and the same is applicable to hip-hop as well. By shortcutting the growing process that older generations went through, like being booed off a stage, selling mixtapes on the corner, or performing for audiences that aren't necessarily listening, artists miss out on the fundamental necessities that are imperative for an artist's growth. Another reason artists lack the ability to adapt is a lack of understanding of who they're marketing to or who they're making music for. Who is their audience? Earlier, I mentioned a question I posed to my friend, asking who does 21 Savage think his audience is, and Lil Baby's response to Casanat. Both were statements that indicated to me they don't know exactly who they're marketing to. Compare that to somebody like Larry June, for instance. After having experienced the rigidity of the major label system, Larry opted to prioritize his independence, which means although he won't ever be the highest selling rapper, he will certainly retain a large portion of the revenue from his releases, also have the freedom and flexibility to drop whenever he feels like. What Larry June also has, relative to the aforementioned rappers, is a diehard audience that will invest in him and his brand. Built through years of engagement, consistency, and an equal return on investment, Larry June first created a lane and mastered his niche. So in turn, his audience built up with him. Even from his earliest days of selling albums out of his trunk, Larry June pours into his fan base with wisdom, financial gems, and quality content, thus making the time spent feel like it's mutually beneficial. Few rappers can say the same. Mainstream rappers like 21 Savage often like to claim that they make music for the streets. But the reality is, their music is more likely to be played in the suburbs than by those still stuck on the streets. After a certain point, a rapper can become so popular and so big that they alienate themselves from their original listeners. Their raps about tricking on women with BBLs, their fleet of cars and houses no longer resonate with the everyman struggling to make ends meet. Combine that with the label-mandated desire to produce songs with potential for virality, then you get something like 21 Savage's Ha Ha or Lil Baby's Hey. Thus, these rappers' music is shelved by their original core audience in favor of someone more closely relatable to what the average listener in the trenches is experiencing. When a rapper becomes mainstream, that core audience of listeners from the trenches turns into Tanner and Brad from Pleasant Grove, who desperately yearn to feel the black experience, with the only way to do so for them coming by way of hip-hop music. And in the case of Lil Baby, who complains that Kai is simply too young to truly get his repetitive, monotonous trap music, the fact of the matter is, there is simply nothing to get. There's an absence of substance in a lot of these rappers' music, which keeps their listeners perpetually stuck in a cycle of, haven't I heard this track before? Lil Baby seems to be under the belief that in his music, he espouses some kind of complex, high-end street knowledge that only those that are in the know can truly relate to. But if he wants to remain relevant, which it seems is his end goal, maybe he should take a page out of Larry June's book and cultivate a relationship with his real audience. The fundamental reason for the lack of success in mainstream hip-hop in 2025 is artists' outright refusal to delve deeper in their craft, which stems from an unwillingness to study the nuances of music to create the best projects imaginable.
I'm saying I'm only 40% of my craft because to this day, with all the success I've had and everything I had, I still don't know what a hi-hat is. I don't know what a reverb is. I don't know how to tell you what I want you to do to the song. I don't know the terminology. I don't know
how to verbally execute what you're
I don't know how to verbally execute what I'm trying to do yet still. I don't even know, even far as I know the basic structure of a song. I know the basic this of a song, but in order for me to be I'm at 80% or I'm at 75%, I feel like I gotta know how to be able to do that. I gotta know how to be able to listen and know to nudge this that way or nudge this that way. And those are the words that I learned, the nudge and a reverb and a hi-hat and I never sat with a producer to this day and we just made a beat.
This deep into an artist's career, Once one has already crossed the threshold into mainstream success, there should be a willingness to experiment with one's sound and style. But too often, mainstream rappers become content and complacent with the sound they already created. This can partially be attributed to a laissez-faire attitude towards becoming a rapper in the first place. Examine any rappers from the past origin story on becoming successful. You'll find a desire to make it in rap at all costs. Nowadays, with street figures turned rappers, the desire isn't advancing the craft, but instead maximizing the most amount of money one can make out of the music industry. An understandable strategy, but ultimately harmful to the genre, as those who lack the passion necessary to evolve the craft are often those who float to the top. What follows is what we see today. A slew of mainstream rappers trotting out the same tired efforts that, although solid enough on their own, don't do enough to shift the landscape of hip-hop. There's one hip-hop figure that since his reemergence from prison has been ostracized and cast out the hip-hop hierarchy. Branded a snitch and forced to push his music alone without the backing of a label or his peers, this rapper returned and came back harder than ever. That artist is Gunna. Gunna's story becoming a successful mainstream artist is quite different than his contemporaries. Upon his release, he was essentially blackballed by his rap cohorts who had, at the time, pledged their allegiance to Young Thug. Rappers like Lil Durk, Lil Baby, and 21 Savage all vehemently expressed disapproval to Gunna's perceived disloyalty. This only lit a fuel for Gunna's flame, and he has since went on to become a consistent figure on the charts, sell out multiple tours, and rebrand himself as a health and fitness advocate, capturing multiple endorsements along the way. Gunna's refusal to be pinned down under the weight of vitriol allowed him to elevate himself amongst the crowd of his peers, and has since paid tremendous dividends. If other rappers were to take on a similar dedication to their craft, hip-hop can be in a much better place moving into 2026. Hip-hop has always been a genre built on evolution, speak honestly to a lived experience, and to grow alongside its listeners. When artists stop studying the craft, stop challenging themselves, and lose touch with the people they claim to represent, their music inevitably begins to feel hollow, repetitive, and disposable. Versatility, self-awareness, and hunger remain the true markers of longevity. If mainstream hip-hop hopes to reclaim this cultural vitality moving into 2026 and beyond, its biggest stars must look inward, reconnecting with their audience, rediscovering their creative urgency, and remembering that relevance is earned through evolution, not entitlement.